Hello, it's Dawn Michelle and welcome back to my channel. Today I thought we would have a little fun playing with some pairs. So I've brought quite a few oracle decks into my collection in the last couple months. I mean, in all fairness, I brought some tarot decks in too. A new one is sitting right here. But I got to thinking about kind of playing with and figuring out which tarot decks my new oracles might go well with. And so I thought we would just sort of have a little play together. This little video here was inspired by this particular pairing, which is the Blessed Be cards by Lucy Cavendish and the Disney Villains tarot deck. So these two are both new decks in my collection, and they're both decks that I really didn't think I would love like as much as I do. So the Blessed Be cards I purchased after seeing Kelly at the Truth and Story talk about using these for setting intention and for really pulling cards and creating blessings for people. And I thought that was such a lovely idea and such a wonderful practice that I went ahead and got this deck myself. This particular copy I picked up when I was at the Northwest Tarot Symposium when Lisa and I went to Powell. So I've had it for about a month now, and I've actually been working with it quite a bit. The tarot deck that I've been pairing it with is actually the Disney Villains Tarot. Now this is another of the Insight Edition fandom decks, and I have to say that like this one has surprised me and it's my favorite of all of them. We do have some pips, as you can see here in the Two of Swords, but they're not lazy pips, because a lot of what I see here does have a reference for me to, you know, particular Disney movies. And I think it actually works really well. I mean, here's our Nine of Wands, and we can see an image depicted here, like a fully realized scene. And I think that it works really, really well. So it was definitely a surprise for me. I wasn't expecting to like this deck as much as I did, and I wasn't expecting this deck to be quite as versatile as it is. So these two are kind of surprises, and that got me to thinking about the other oracle decks that I've purchased recently in the last month or so, and what decks I might want to pair them with. So today we're going to have a little fun playing with some pairs. And I'm just going to share with you 6 of the new oracle decks that have come into my collection recently, and the tarot decks that I have been playing with or intend to play with alongside them. So again, we're going to start off with the Blessed Be Oracle and the Villains Tarot deck. I do actually really like the Blessed Be for a oracle deck with a message for a tarot reading. So even though it does work really well for intention setting and for creating blessings for people, Marlena and I sometimes pull cards for each other with this when we have things going on, because we both have this deck. When I was traveling, she pulled a card out for me. I've pulled cards for her. And so it's really wonderful to have that as that blessings or setting intention for somebody, or just putting good thoughts out into the world for them, right? But I also find that it works really well paired with my Villains Tarot. And I think part of that is that sort of villain energy versus the blessing energy. So kind of the blessing and the curse. And it just works really, really beautifully. So here we have a blessing for support between the King of Swords and the Ace of Swords. I get really beautiful messages with these two decks together, and I really do enjoy playing with the Disney Villains Tarot and using it for an everyday sort of reader. I have also been using it while I play Disney Dreamlight Valley, which is where the whole inspiration for buying this deck came from. I talked about it in my coffee and cards that I do with my members when I first got it, and it was really fun to be able to use that in my practice in that way as well. So here we have a blessing on your day with the Six of Coins and the Sun. I mean, again, it's that kind of like blessing and curse, kind of the yin and yang energy that I think works really well. Although I wouldn't say that the Disney villain has like any sort of a curse energy to it. It's actually a really solid reader for me, and it's kind of a little bit of a truth teller, which is really great. But I love that we have this idea of kind of pairing the blessings with maybe those more challenging moments. So I think it works really well. So here we have a blessing for unity, where once there was division between the King of Wands and the Knight of Swords. That's really great. And again, we have villains in these cards, so I do love that energy pulled in together. Aesthetically speaking, I do actually think they work together pretty dang well. They are two different art styles. They're even two different card stocks, but I really do think that aesthetically, the colors go together really well. The artwork is really compatible. It's really cohesive, and I really like those messages that I'm getting. So here's a blessing on the children with the Page of Coins and the Ten of Cups. And if anybody is interested, I can share a little bit more in depth about how I actually work with these cards together. But today we're just going to kind of focus on the pairings and the decks that are kind of playing together or that I intend to play together. So we have a blessing for forgiveness with the Ace of Coins and the Seven of Swords, really fun. A blessing to lift sadness with the Ten of Swords and the Four of Wands. That's really cool. I do really like the colors. I really like the borders. Even the borders are pretty cohesive because they have a square border around with decorative elements in the corners, and that works really beautifully together. Again, colors are fantastic, and this is definitely not a pairing that I would have thought to pull together. However, I was just working with my Villains Tarot one day, and I wanted an oracle to pull out with it. I saw this one sitting on my shelf because I've been using it, again, to pull cards for blessings for people or for myself, and for whatever reason, I just felt called to grab them and to use them together, and I've been using them together quite a bit ever since. Again, I just love the energy of that sort of blessing and a curse pulled together. So here we have a blessing from your ancestors with the Nine of Cups and the Devil. I mean, that's really, really cool. Let's just do one more. A blessing for solace and hope between the King of Cups and the High Priestess. We can definitely get some solace and hope energy in that. Even the backs match. So again, that's been a really fun pairing that I've been playing with, the Disney Villains Tarot deck and the Blessed Bee Oracle. All right, so the next pairing, we're just gonna get both the Inside Edition decks that I've been playing with this month out of the way. This is, of course, the Stranger Things Tarot deck that I have here, and the Southern Gothic Oracle, which I have over here. Now, this pairing came to me as I was doing the walkthrough for the Stranger Things deck. There's still a few misses in this deck for me, like in terms of some of the suit associations and things like that, like as it's intended in the guidebook. And I found that if I just read it in a way that is in alignment with the way that I read tarot, this deck actually works really, really well for me. So I've really been enjoying getting to know the Stranger Things tarot. And the deck that I've been playing with it recently is the deck that was inspired by or came to me as the perfect pairing while I was doing the walkthrough, and this is the Southern Gothic Oracle. And this deck is very new. It just got here. I just had a chance to go through it with my members, and so I'm just now starting to play with it. But I really, really like it, and I think it goes beautifully with the Stranger Things Tarot. So again, we're looking at very compatible decks in terms of the art style, in terms of even the setup on the cards. They both have this sort of beigey border to them, which I think works really well. And I do love the messages. I love that it pulls in that sort of Southern style. Stranger Things is set in Indiana primarily, and my husband's side of the family lives down in Southern Indiana, so I definitely feel connected to the Southern Gothic Oracle in that way. And as I mentioned with the Stranger Things Tarot in that walkthrough, it does make me feel a little bit nostalgia for that time in my life when we actually lived there a long time ago, and my childhood and things like that. I did not grow up in Indiana, but I spent a good portion of my teen and young adult years in that area. And so there's a lot of personal associations here for me. Again, artwork is just super compatible. I love it. I love the keywords on the Southern Gothic. I've been using it as, because it also has two keywords on the bottom. We have the title of whatever the card is that we're looking at, and then we have two keywords, and I'm using those in association with the tarot cards that come around it. So that's been really fun. So here we have the Axe with division and lessening. So division with the Chariot and lessening with the Three of Spokes. I think that works really well. And yeah, I do feel like these decks are just kind of meant to go together. I've really been enjoying getting to know them in this way. So we have Pinecone here for our central focus, and then the Third Eye with Judgment and New Perspective with the Eight of Spokes. That's really cool. I really, really like that. And again, aesthetically, like they're just so much fun to play with together. Like we'll just flip through a few more. I am gonna sneak the other deck in here too, even though it's not on my original list. I just feel like we need to have a little moment to give it a try as well. But yeah, I feel like these decks are made for each other. And one of the things I like with pairing an oracle, like a really detailed, lovely illustrated oracle with a more pip style deck, is because the pips feel less pippy when I put them with a really beautifully illustrated oracle deck such as the Southern Gothic. So here we have the 2 of Scoops and the 8 of Scoops. I'm reading these as cups, even though that's not how the creator intended it, but that's how they resonate for me. And then I have the Hurricane lamp in between. As I tend to say in this case, like, it's not straight up pip with just like, you know, 8 dabs of ice cream on the card. We do have a little bit of a scene depicted, but the scene is very repetitive across, particularly in the Scoops. And so it does feel more pippish, and pairing it with an oracle like this really helps to kind of minimize that pip nature of the deck. And I just think it works really, really well together. Okay, so let's do one more with this one. The Mason jar with the star. So mentorship would be relating to our star, and protection would be relating to our 10 of strands. How cool is that? Okay, so I'm also gonna slip in the Southern Botanical Oracle in here because at the same time I ordered the Southern Gothic, I ordered this one as well. That one I do believe is coming out mass market at some point, but I wanted them on the same cardstock in case I want to mix them together. So I thought we would play with this one too. Now this one is not a pairing that I've done together, but it has the same kind of concept. We just have flowers instead of those kind of Southern symbols and elements and scenes depicted. Here we have more just botanicals, but we still have the 2 keywords down at the bottom, so I can still do the same thing I was doing. So here we have Iris with faith and hope. We have faith corresponding to strength and hope corresponding to the 5 of dice. I mean, that's pretty cool. And I feel like, again, they're real similar in their setup. The art styles are super compatible, right? I could mix all of these decks together and I think get a really, really fantastic reading, which I think would be really fun to do, but not the scope of this video. So I'm trying to stay on task, even though that's really hard for me to do when I've got decks out here like this that I'm just like, ooh, I want to play with them and try this and try that. So yeah, it's a really beautiful, beautiful deck with this, the Southern Gothic and the Southern Botanical. They're just absolutely gorgeous decks. Here we have Rose with love and the Queen of Dice, and sensuality with the 4 of Spokes. That's interesting. So yeah, I think if, you know, that kind of imagery in the Southern Gothic isn't your thing, and even though I think it goes really well with the Stranger Things tarot, if it's not quite your thing, I think the Botanical is really, really beautiful as well. Granted, you could probably throw just about any kind of botanical deck. If I had my botanical inspirations and threw that down in here, I feel like that would work really well. But I love that the setup on the decks is also the same, so they feel almost like they belong together. So we'll just flip through a couple more because I do have several more decks that I want to share with you. There's the Magnolia. That's my favorite card in this deck. We have Leadership with the Page of Dice and Greatness with the Knight of Spokes. Very, very cool. And because I just can't help myself and we're having a little bit of a play here, I have put the Stranger Things in the middle, the Southern Botanical Oracle on the left, and the Southern Gothic on the right, and I just want to see how these 3 play together because I think they're going to be quite beautiful. We get the really expressive illustrations here in both the Southern decks, and then again with that, you know, pippy nature doesn't matter quite as much when you add in all this other imagery around it. So here we have our 6 of Scoops, so I'm going to relate that to the 6 of Cups, and then we have Wild Cherry over here with Passion and Fire, and Sassafras with Healing and Self-Care. That's really beautiful because what I love about this is it's giving me that idea of the 2 things kind of coming together, right? 6 is kind of that harmonizing number. We're going to harmonize the emotional state. We're going to do that by bringing Passion and Fire, but also paying attention where we need healing and self-care. And I think that works really, really well. Our Page of Spokes with Comfrey and the Mockingbird. I mean, this is pretty cool too. And like the more decks, the merrier in my opinion. All right, let's do one more. Ooh, the Magician with Azalea and the Blue Moon. Quite beautiful. So that was a pairing with the Stranger Things and the Southern Gothic Oracle, Stranger Things and the Southern Botanical, and then our little deck menage a trois here with all three decks together. All right, so let's go a little bit in a different direction here. I mean, how perfect are these backs together? This is the Serpentfire Tarot over here and the Modern Nirvana Oracle on the left here. Now, the Modern Nirvana Oracle is very, very new to my collection. I was hanging out with Lisa at Powell's during the Northwest Tarot Symposium, and I saw the other deck by this creator. I think it's called the Amente Oracle, which is a deck that I have been really interested in taking a look at. And then she mentioned that this one was coming out, so I decided to go ahead and wait for it, and then I bought it pretty much as soon as it released from Amazon. I really, really like the keywords in this deck, and I really like the illustrations. We'll see. I have not actually worked with it. I've only kind of flipped through it. I flipped through it with my members, and then I've looked through it a time or two myself. And this is the Serpentfire. So this is the first deck, I think, that... No, the two Oracle decks that we just looked at, the Southern Gothic and the Southern Botanical, are both indie decks. This is also an indie deck. The rest have been mass market. I'll try to remember to kind of note that. This is the Serpentfire Tarot. I do believe this is the last printing, and I do not know if this deck is even still available anymore. I will definitely check and list it in the description box below if it is. But it's really a really cool... a very sort of modern collage deck. I love the images in this deck. It feels a bit like what I wanted the Muse Tarot to be perfectly honest. And I just thought that as I was flipping through this deck with my members that it might go really, really well. And I think I mentioned that in that initial video where I was like, I feel like because there's so much going on in the Serpentfire, it helps to have an Oracle deck paired with it that's a little more on the minimalistic side. Now, this is not a minimalistic Oracle, but the art styles is a little bit more on the minimalist side. And so with everything going on in the cards in the Serpentfire, you can see that it kind of creates a little bit of breathing room in the reading. It also creates a really wonderful focal point, which is one of the ways that I absolutely love to work with my Oracle and Tarot together. You know, I don't always do it in this 3-card combination. Sometimes I'll pull a lot more cards. Sometimes I'll pull an additional Tarot and Oracle. But overall, this is a really wonderful way to get a kind of succinct in the moment message because I can look at, okay, kindness is my focus. Kindness is where I need to be directing my energy. And here we have the 5 of Cups and the Emperor. So I love that idea of maybe practicing some kindness when things aren't going so well for me or when my emotional state isn't really the best. And then in the Emperor energy, you know, we can look at creating some stability within that and, you know, taking a little bit of responsibility for ourselves and how we're putting ourselves out there and where we're practicing kindness in our life. I think it just works really beautifully. The art styles I think are really similar because this is like kind of the Modern Nirvana has a very similar art style. It's just drawn rather than collaged. But we have a lot of sort of Egyptian influences as well. There's a lot of geometric shapes. There's a lot of really cool colors that are compatible, and I think it just works really beautifully. The emotions with the Devil and the Hanged Man. I mean, that's a perfect message right there. I'd be tempted to pour more cards if I was doing that in a reading to be like, okay, now I got it. Now where do I need to focus that energy? But I think this works really great for really keying into what's the central theme or central idea of a reading. And then how can I use my tarot to expand upon it? Again, I just think these are super compatible. I even don't mind the border on the Modern Nirvana because with a busy deck, like a collage deck, that border does help create some space and create a little bit of breathing room in between all of this imagery that's going on in the collage deck. Liberation with the Chariot and the 8 of Cups. How beautiful is that? Yeah, these are going to be really fun. So now we're moving into pairings I have not done together because these next few Oracle decks that I'm going to share with you are all very new to my collection. They've just gotten here, and so I haven't had time to play with them yet. But this is definitely a pairing that I really want to explore some more because I think this is really beautiful. Transcendence with the Knight of Pentacles and the Magician. But you see how it kind of all has this funky retro sort of 70s style energy to both the modern Nirvana and the Serpentfire tarot. I feel like I could probably pair the modern Nirvana with a lot of my collage decks, and I feel like it would do really well, except maybe the vintage ones, maybe not so much with those, but I feel like the collage ones it would go really well with. Reciprocity, Six of Cups and Ace of Cups. That's beautiful. Okay, let's do one more. Synthesis, Judgment, and the Hierophant. That's a perfect note to end on. I mean, even just based on the backs, I do feel like these decks were meant for each other. It was funny when I first shared this deck with my members, I was like, I don't really like the backs, but with the Serpentfire, they're amazing. I love it. We have all the same colors in both of these backs. Not that the backs really matter to me that much, but it's super cool when it works out that way. So that is the Modern Nirvana Oracle paired with the Serpentfire Tarot. So the next deck pairing I have for you is the Ophidia Rosa Tarot, which I have here, which is an indie deck, and the new Herbal Astrology Oracle, which is a mass market deck that I think just came out not too long ago. These decks, the Ophidia Rosa it's one of my favorite decks. Now this is a pip style deck, but it is a pip style deck that I have been able to make a connection with. It did take me some time and some study to come around to figuring out how I wanted to work with this deck. And in the end, it ended up being this really, really beautiful experience. I created a journal, I've written poetry, which is not something I normally do, but it's definitely been a deck that has helped me connect to that really deep, sort of emotional, creative side of myself. And so it's a deck that I use for fairly specific workings, but I would like to bring it in and use it for more. So I feel like pairing it with a more kind of all-around oracle deck. Can we just talk about the backs too? Very cool. Such as the Herbal Astrology. Like, this is just a gorgeously illustrated deck. It's soft, it's muted. I feel like the colors are really cohesive, but it's also like a real straight shooter in that sense of that, like, peaceful warrior. Got it. I know what to do with that. Death, I know what to do with that. Surrender, it's got really great keywords. We do have the plants, and there are astrological associations. Now, because this is totally new to my collection, I haven't done any work with it yet, but I imagine that I will just really be keying into the beautiful artwork and the keywords and the flowers or the plants more so than the astrology, but I do like that it has that layer in there so that if I want to expand upon that or use that, I certainly can. So again, looking at pairing decks with kind of opposite energies in terms of this being a very pip style deck. It's very muted. There's only a few colors in it. And this, though it is muted, and it is both, they're both botanical decks, the Herbal Astrology has these really beautiful, fully fleshed out illustrations that I think really help to bring those deeper messages out of the Ophidia Rosa, because now I have a keyword, now I have a focus. And I can also tie into all of the things going on in the card as well, into the additional imagery. Now, I haven't even gotten into the guidebook for any of these decks, any of these oracle decks. So there's a lot more that can be pulled out from there when you start working on these with these cards in a really deep level like that. But I just feel like these two decks paired together, there's something about that opposite aesthetics in terms of one's really pippy and one's, you know, this full beautiful borderless artwork that expands across the entirety of the card. But they're both botanical decks as well, so we have that kind of common theme running between them. I can really key into the flower, the plant energy, that really grounded earthy nature. But I do like that in the Herbal Astrology, we also have that astrological association. So you do see that kind of above energy, right? That kind of spiritual tie, bringing it down. And I feel like this is also, if something I was going to be using for larger readings, I could pull the Ophidia Rosa for that really deep grounded earthy energy as kind of like a bottom layer, and then pull something else, maybe even the Ad Orbita, which is another deck by the same creator, or even a different, more pip style deck that corresponds more to this kind of as above spiritual realm for me, I feel like that would work really well for a beautiful, expansive reading. And so these are just kind of things that I think about and play with when I get new decks, and I thought I'd just do it with you today because, again, like I said, I have a lot of these new oracles that I'm kind of looking at. Where are they going to fit in my collection? What do I want to pair them with? I feel like the Herbal Astrology to me kind of feels like the Herbal deck I've been waiting for. Like the aesthetic is just right up my alley. And I like the keywords that I've seen on it. Again, it's very new, so I haven't worked with it, but this is definitely a pairing that I'm excited to work with and explore more. I'm sure I'll be playing with it with other decks as well, being that it's a botanical oracle. I feel like it's gonna go with a lot of decks that I have in my collection, which does tend to be very earthy or also very in the spiritual realm, like I talked about in my village video that I did not too long ago. So yeah, it's going to be a really fun one, I think, to pair with. So let's just take a look here. We've got Psychic Healing with the Lovers and the Page of Cups. Beautiful. Purity between the Ace of Swords and the Seven of Pentacles. Yeah, I love the botanical energy. I love the muted color palette that's coming across all of these cards. Like, I do feel like they just blend together really, really well. Also, they feel real similar. The Ophidia Rosa is a little bit stickier than the Herbal Astrology, but they do kind of have a really similar tactile feel, which is always really interesting. So Protection with the Nine of Wands and the Emperor. I love that. Look at that lion face with that Emperor energy. But we've also got that Nine of Wands energy, that really kind of standing your ground. And I think that works beautifully with Protection. Let's do one more. The Anima Mundi with the Star and the Knight of Cups. So yeah, that's another pairing that I'm definitely looking forward to working with some more. Like I said, the Ophidia Rosa is kind of a special deck in my collection. I do have kind of a special spot in my heart for it. So I love when I find decks that pair really well with it. So I'm really excited to put that together with the Herbal Astrology and see what comes out. So the next two decks here that I have for our playing with pairs is the Seed and Sickle Oracle. I hate these boxes. I will forever hate these boxes. And the Lunne, which I do not have a box for because I purchased this from, I think, Make Playing Cards. There's also a linen edition on a different one. I'll try to remember to link them both below, which I wish I would have gotten, but I had already edged mine and everything, so I'm good. I'm keeping it. Let's talk about the Seed and Sickle really quick, because this is a deck that, like, I think has the most gorgeous illustrations in it, but it does only have the title of the plant. And that does nothing for me because I don't know anything really about plants beyond very, very basic things. But there's a lot of things going on in the imagery if you really take the time to look. So I feel like that might help me. This is a deck that I've gone back and forth about whether or not I wanted to get it or not. I think this was another one that I picked up when Lisa and I were at Powell's. And so I was trying to think of, like, what deck could I pair it with that would maybe help me to make a connection to it. And because this is a deck that I feel like I'm going to struggle with a little bit because it just has the plant name on it, I decided to grab my Lunne because this is just a basic Rider-Waite-Smith inspired deck. So it's a super easy reader, but I think it's really gentle, really beautiful, really approachable, and I don't have like any trouble reading with this deck. It's super, super easy, solid reader for me. So I thought maybe pairing an Oracle deck with an Oracle deck that I feel like I'm going to struggle with a little bit with a deck that's a super solid, easy, no nonsense, kind of quick and easy read for me might help me to make that connection. And I just thought aesthetically, because they're all in these like beautiful sort of pastel-y colors, like earthy pastel-y colors, I thought they might go together really well. So here we have Magnolia between the Knight of Pentacles and the Page of Cups. I mean, like, already I'm like, what does Magnolia mean? So I would have to get into the guidebook. I might have to do some sort of a mod on this deck, maybe put some keywords on it, at least a keyword, so I can hopefully make a connection to it. I love this Ace of Pentacles in this deck, I just have to say. but here we have blackthorn. So we have this maybe kind of hand, this offering. I do love that the pentacle is kind of like coming up from the ground. We have the plant coming out of the hand, like coming out of it. We've got this nightscape thing. I'm thinking that maybe blackthorn maybe might have a little bit of tie into that devil energy here. Maybe there's something, might be something a little bit more shadowy. I don't know, because I don't know nothing about blackthorn, but you know, we're gonna roll with it. But again, I just thought that aesthetically they would be really beautiful together, and maybe having a deck that was really an easy reader for me would make that work. Doing that work with this deck a little bit easier, because at least I don't have to struggle with the tarot, right? I know what the tarot is trying to tell me, and then I can spend some time looking at or diving into the guidebooks for the oracle deck. And you know, sometimes I'm okay with making that investment in terms of my time during a reading, but sometimes I just want the message to be really on the forefront. So that's definitely something I keep in mind when I'm looking at oracle decks, because I have to be in the right space and have enough time to really dive into a guidebook versus an oracle deck, say some of the others where the keywords are directly on the cards. Look at this pairing though, the Hawthorn, Queen of Pentacles, King of Swords. I love this Queen of Pentacles too. But look at how each of them kind of have, well, the tree, of course, it doesn't have a head, but we have these kind of antlers coming off the Queen of Pentacles head. The King of Swords has a feather, almost like a feather crown, although I think it's just in his hair. And then we have the bare branches of the tree, and all the growth is on the outside. I mean, intuitively, I feel like this is a lot that I could work with. And so I think there are messages that can be found there just working with the decks based on the artwork, based on the colors. What is the movement, the energy, the color, the illustration? What is it trying to tell me, even if I don't understand what the direct correspondence is to the plant on the card? So we've got this cup here, this taking a moment, this chamomile is kind of coming up through there. And we have the Seven of Wands and the Ten of Pentacles. And this is kind of telling me that like just keep at it, right? You're gonna get to where it is that you wanna be. Maybe take a breath in between and just know that it's gonna work out, right? And that's just me going off intuitive hits off the decks themselves and pulling in my traditional tarot knowledge. But yeah, I think aesthetically they actually work really well together, and this is definitely a pairing that I'd want to play with. I feel like this would be really good for my Simple Sunday readings. I do tend to like to use my Mara Lunne for my Simple Sunday readings because, again, part of the whole thing about those is they're kind of quick and easy readings, right? They're not designed to be these really long, drawn out, diving deep into the self. It's just designed to kind of take a moment, get grounded, get centered, spend some time with yourself and your cards, get your message, and then move on with your day. The Simple Sunday, I sometimes forget to mention, those are just spreads that I do in my public Facebook group. They're just free little 3-card readings that I put out every Sunday. So yeah, I feel like this is going to be a really interesting pairing to work with together. And in this case, I'm using the tarot to kind of help me to maybe unlock or understand an oracle deck. I have talked about using oracle to help me unlock tarot before, but this time we're doing it the other way around. So that's pretty cool. The Seed and Sickle Oracle paired with the Mara Lunne, which I've had for I think a few months now and have worked with quite a bit. So that's going to be a fun one to kind of explore more. The backs look pretty together too. Dude, this box though, like I just can't with these boxes. I'm sorry, I just can't. Can't do it. It's gonna have to get a bag if I'm gonna keep it. Just saying. So for our last pairing in this Playing with Pairs video is a pairing that I'm actually really excited about. This is the Celtic Spirit Oracle, and this is a very new, like as in I just got it, I think last week, oracle deck in my collection. It's going to feature in another video. I don't know if that will be before or after this one, so you may have already seen it or you may be seeing it again soon. And I'm going to be pairing that with my Forest of Enchantment. Now this is a favorite deck in my collection. I use it quite a bit. I love the energy of it. I love the way it reads. It's definitely a no-nonsense kind of reader. It's so funny to hear about how people have different experiences with decks like these. I've heard lots of people say that this is like a wonderful hug deck and it gives them loving, supportive messages. That has not been my experience with it. I have found it to be a really honest, sometimes a little bit brutal, but a really honest truth teller that often kind of gets into that, the underbrush of what's going on in my situation or in my life or whatever I'm doing a reading on. So it's really, really cool. So I'm really excited to pair it with the Celtic Spirit Oracle because, again, I feel like aesthetically, they're just divine, right? Look at this. And I love when we have, again, we have a really fully illustrated, beautiful images in the Forest of Enchantment. And then we have that more minimalistic, more muted color palette in the Celtic Spirit. It's kind of like the same thing that we saw with the Serpentfire and the modern Nirvana, right? And so I feel like these are going to work really well together. I love that they both kind of have that foresty, Celtic kind of an energy, and I like the keywords. I feel like it's going to have a really great energy to help me do some readings with, and I do really want to use the Forest of Enchantment with it because I feel like these keywords too also really resonate with the Forest of Enchantment, with the energy of it. So if I was looking at the hair, we have the Otherworld, Shape-Shifting Fertility with the Weaver of Spells and the Ace of Spells. And again, also the artwork I think is really beautiful together. Master of the Hunt, Speed, Masculinity, and Flow. 5 of Spells, Weaver of Boons. That's pretty cool. It does have a bit of Fae energy to it, which I think is really neat because I haven't really paired the Forest of Enchantment with my Fae decks because they don't really feel like they go in terms of my Fae oracles. And I feel like this one might have a little bit of that energy mixed in there, and it might pair really beautifully and add that little bit of that Fae vibe here and there to my readings. Not all the time, which is great. Sometimes I don't want Fae energy. I'm not like real versed in it anyway. I'm still really learning about it, still exploring it. But I like that it's kind of there every once in a while. We get that hint of it. Like here's the green fairy with mischief, freedom, and reckless between the enchanter and the seeker of spells. That's pretty cool. Again, aesthetically, they're just beautiful, right? Look at that. Love it. I love all the colors. I love the soft color palette in the Celtic Spirit Oracle and those deep green, earthy, rich colors that we get in the Forest of Enchantment. It's just beautiful. So many things I can't wait to do with these decks, but today we're just doing pairings and I'm gonna stay focused. I definitely want to do some more videos where I kind of talk about how I work with things and do things. I do a lot of that with my members though, so if that's something that you're definitely interested in, I mean, sorry, shameless promotion here, but if that's something that you're interested in, you might wanna check that out because I do share a lot of that kind of stuff as well as the guided tarot practice that we do together every month. So Portal, Child of Spells, 9 of Boons. I love that. I get Portal vibes out of all of these cards too. I mean, sorry, sidetracked, but like the way that these little branches up here illustrated kind of coming in, it kind of creates like this arc. It does kind of give a little bit of this portal energy behind. We definitely have the portal here in this card. That is the focus of the card. But then we kind of get that portal energy here as well with this sort of cave-like the trees all kind of coming together to create this sort of access point here. And I definitely get that portal energy coming through all 3 of those cards. I wonder if that's the case for any others. So here we have the She with Ancient Knowledge, Help, and Dimensional. I love that there's a She card too. So spirals, maybe I should be looking for some spiral or some textured, some patterns, and maybe that might be something that I want to draw my eye to. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that. The Green Man. All right, let's just do one more. Cared-Win, 4 of Challenges, 2 of Spells. I could sit and do this all day. So those are 2 decks that I definitely have intentions of doing some very specific work with. The Celtic Spirit Oracle, which is brand new to my collection, and my tried and true beloved Forest of Enchantment Tarot. So there we go. Those are 6 new, or 7. I think I slipped an extra one in. 6 to 7 new Oracle decks in my collection, the tarot decks that I have been or intend to pair with. So I just thought it would be fun to kind of hang out, sit, and play with some pairs together. As always, you'll find links for everything that I've shown here in the description box below. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I look forward to sharing with you again soon.